Should they start with my nasty voice? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Or do you think someone's going to be like, I'm turned off? She sounds like a troll. I don't think. Okay. Welcome to the Holy Mess Podcast. I'm Joy.
And I'm Bekah.
If you think you're a mess, you're not alone. We talk about the things of life through the lens of faith, and we find the hope in all of it.
Today, we're going to talk about how Joy was able to get through a panic attack in record time. A vulnerable moment for me at a mall that ended up with me crying into my Dippin tots, as well as what to do when you actually overcome your fears to make sure that those fears don't creep in again. But first, a little housekeeping. Congratulations to Sarah. She was the winner of Mandisa's brand new book that we gave away in last week's episode. And then secondly, there almost wasn't a podcast this week. It has been rough. I was on vacation last week. Joy, you were sick.
I almost died. I say that as a dramatic fashion. I really didn't, but I did have to go to the doctor multiple times.
Yeah.
And I still have a little bit of bronchitis. So if if I sound a little odd, this is so much better. I mean, my voice was totally gone. And in some ways, I was grateful for that because it's hard to not do the job that Bekah and I do. We do radio shows. You can do it from home if you need to. And typically, even if you're sick, people try to do the show. But I was so sick that God decided to take my entire voice away, so I couldn't do anything but rest.
You kind of need for this job. Just a little bit.
It's the only thing you need.
It's the only thing you need.
You don't even need a brain some days, it's just your voice.
So all that to say, we do our best to get an episode out every Thursday. We love doing this, but the reality is there might be a week and there's not going to be an episode. And instead of thinking that, the podcast ended or we forgot, it might just be that we are truly living the phrase holy mess.
Yeah.
So on to our messy moments of the week. Joy, what's yours?
Mine was actually the week before I got sick. And my son had this nasty virus before we did. And you probably remember that week. I was just frazzled at work because parents who have kids that get sick, I literally don't know how they do it. In fact, at some point, I need a parent to tell me what you do with your kids in the summer. Like when you have a job and they break for school, I don't know what you do with your children. And when your kids are sick, you can't really work full time because no one can care for them but you. And so my son couldn't go to daycare. And now that I had the virus, I know he was in it bad. It was really, really tough. And every day he seemed to get worse. And so my husband and I were both doing this dance where my husband would say, I'll work today, and then maybe tomorrow he can go back. And then the next day I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to work tomorrow, but maybe I can stay home today. I mean, we were just taking turns. But both of us, we'd been gone from work a good bit the last few weeks, and so we were trying to still do our jobs full time. And so there was a literal moment where my son should have been getting better, but he started to get worse, and that makes my mama anxiety bad. And then I had decided that I needed to work from home the next day, which I didn't know I was going to have to do. And the only way to do that with a toddler for me and this, sound specific job is to do it when he's sleeping. So I knew as soon as I put him to bed, even though I was exhausted and I worked all day, I had to get right to work on the stuff for the next day. And I needed to show prep and I needed to record in my little closet studio that I have. And then I was also going to have to get up at like 4:35 a.m. and try to finish the show before he got up. So it's stressful anyways. And you won't even believe this. I literally put him to bed. It was overwhelming. It was a tough bedtime because he's not healthy. I come downstairs and Bekah, my husband's trying to turn on the TV and he goes, our internet's out. I was like, what? It was working like literally 10 minutes ago.
I take it back. You don't just need a voice. You also need internet if you're going to work from home.
You do. And I said, what are you talking about? That's all I need is the internet. I said, get it working. And he was like, I'm trying everything. I don't know. So I'm just sitting on the couch kind of processing, what do I do? Do I take a sick day tomorrow and know that some random person's going to have to find out last minute they're filling in for me? Do I go to like a McDonald's and try to what do I do? I need internet so badly. And I'm sitting there as my husband's trying to figure it out. He decides after like an hour he can't get it fixed. He reaches out. He's like, someone can't come till tomorrow afternoon. So we're trying to fathom it. It's not a big deal to some people, but for me it was big in the moment. And all of a sudden, if you've ever had anxiety, you know the feeling of an anxiety attack coming on. Mm-hmm. My chest instantly got super tight because my brain was already doing the racing thoughts and I could not get a breath. And it happened so fast that I just went, I can't breathe. And my husband, this is an amazing part of the story, he has watched me have, sadly, a lot of anxiety attacks. And I haven't had one in about a year, I would say. And so my husband has learned how to handle my anxiety attacks. He sat on the couch with me. He grabbed my hand and he said, okay, I'm going to count and we're going to start breathing. And do you want to describe the count, the breathing that helps? You've talked about it before.
One of the things that I do is, I think it's called box breathing, but it's like inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. That's the one that I do when I know I need to slow my heart rate down a little bit.
Yeah, we basically did that. And so he started counting and he started breathing with me. And I didn't have to explain anything to him. I didn't have to try to do it on my own. And honestly, it was the fastest an anxiety attack has passed because I got my brain and I got my breathing under control. And something else I've learned in therapy is that it often happens for a lot of us, I think, when our racing thoughts cause our body to have an out-of-body experience. And so you have to ground yourself in the moment you're in again. And so one of the things I do is just to look around the room, and you can really choose anything. My counselor was like, you can pick a color and be like, I'm going to find all the green stuff in here right now. Or you can just be like, in your brain, start saying, there's a gray chair, there's a blue book, and you just start grounding yourself in the moment that you're in. I'm not in the day of work tomorrow. I am not in the morning when I need to do the show. I'm not even in midnight tonight when my son will probably be up. I'm sitting on the couch. I am safe. I'm okay. And so I used all the techniques I learned. And I just want to say that it showed the growth that I've had in my relationship with my husband. And I just wanted to praise him because he, in the beginning, would literally be like, what's wrong with you? What's happening? What do I need to do? Oh, no. And he would start freaking out, which would make my anxiety attack worse. Sometimes they would last for 20 minutes to a half hour. And so I actually ended up writing a post on Facebook, which a lot of people have shared and chimed in on, just thanking people who love those of us with anxiety and depression. And I said things like, thank you for the prayers you've prayed for our relief. Thank you for the research you've done, the worry you've given, the ways you've asked good questions, and the way that you've made mistakes and tried to learn better so that you can be our heroes. And most people have no idea how strong you are as you've watched a person you love hurt and you've watched the dark seasons, and yet you walk through them with us. And so I just want to thank you if you're listening to this and you love somebody who struggles, man, depression, anxiety, any of it. You are so strong too. And a mom reached out and said her son has them. And the first one lasted a long time because she didn't know what to do. But she learned box breathing like you talked about, Bekah. She said, I did all kinds of research. And now when one comes on, we tackle it quickly.
That's amazing. And if you want to find that post, just WayFM Afternoons on
that's
Facebook.
Where it is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can read her words. Maybe share it if you want to thank the person in your life who loves you or want to even brag on yourself. That's fine too.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say that your anxiety attacks sound a lot prettier than mine because
really,
the last couple I've had to take off my shirt at some point.
What?
I can't breathe. I don't know
like
what it
the
is.
clothes are keeping the air from getting inside.
It's so funny because in the moment I am just stressed and I'm anxious, but out of the moment when you look back at it, you're like, that probably looked really ridiculous.
Is it because you get really hot? I get really hot,
Yes, I get really warm.
Yes, all of a sudden your body's like, I'm on fire.
I'm like, I have to take something off.
Plus your husband, he's like, it's happening.
That's when he's been confused of like, what is going on?
Is this beneficial? Should I take my shirt off? I don't know.
But also, too, if you struggle with anxiety attacks, Google breathing techniques. Google grounding techniques. Maybe the ones we've mentioned don't quite fit for you. There are so many out there that you can find.
And it makes it pass so much faster. It really is effective. So I want to hear about your mess of the week and Bekah was on vacation. I want to know if that tied into it because
it does.
I prayed for your whole vacation, girl. If you missed the episode where Bekah's husband Joey was featured, you guys talked about how one of your dreams was to go on trips when he's feeling better. And so I prayed that he would feel good and that you guys would have a good time. And I need to know if that happened.
It did. It did. We got to take our puppy to the beach, which I mentioned in that episode was one of our goals. But one of the things about chronic illness is that it doesn't take a vacation. So we had a blast. Right. We had fun, but to be honest, Joey was pretty nauseated most of the time. And I think it came from eating out at restaurants more than we usually would.
It's different.
Because he can't just say no. He can't just watch me eat. That's not fair. And so he'll order something, and that kind of sent him down a spiral.
Oh, no.
However, my messy moment doesn't actually have to do with that. It's still about vacation. One of the goals of this trip, besides taking the puppy to the beach and relaxing, was finding some new clothes for me.
Are you serious? You didn't tell me that.
Yes. Spring is a tough season. I think it's because winter, you can layer so many things up.
I don't know what's going to happen, but all I have to say is fashion show at lunch.
Not quite. But,
oh, man, I want to see it all.
And this is where I think I need to admit that I'm maybe a bit of a hypocrite because we had Jennifer on several episodes ago.
Jennifer Taylor Wagner. Yes.
And she talked about body image and body positivity and learning to love your body. And I've realized on this trip, I'm not there yet. I am at my all-time heaviest right now.
Girl, I never would have known.
And so not only do I need new shirts, I just always need new shirts in the springtime. I don't know what it is. They wear out. I don't know. But also the jeans that I have worn for several years that have always had like a little bit of give to them are maxed out. And that was also hard for me to recognize.
I was amazed that you said you've had jeans for years.
Yeah.
Girl, my thigh rubbing wears my down within 1 year.
Mine are about to give out. They're like,
oh my word,
please save us. So that was one of the things. So we go to the mall, and my husband, this is another part of my insecurity in this area. Joey used to be 250 pounds before he got ill.
Right.
He's lost over 100 pounds. He now weighs less than I do. That's fine in any relationship, but I think when you get used to one dynamic of him always being like the big, broad guy to give you the bear hug, and then he's frail now.
He is.
That is really, it just messes with you a little bit. And it's really made me have a hard time looking in the mirror and saying, my body is good. I'm really struggling with that. So we go to the mall. First of all, start with the jeans because I needed to get that under control first.
The fact you even started there, jeans are triggering.
They are.
There's never been a time I've gone shopping for jeans and been like, that was a great experience.
No.
I'm going to do that again.
And I walked into this store, and I'm 6 foot tall, so I had to find the inseams that would be long enough, which not many stores do. Oh. So I go to the store where I've gotten jeans before, and I was like, hey, does every style have the 34 inseam, which is what I need? And she's like, oh, no, these don't have it. These do. She goes, and I would start with this style because it's better for curvy girls. And again,
no, ma'am.
There's nothing wrong with being a curvy girl.
I'm a curvy girl.
The way she said it was like, and you're going to need more room for your bum.
Anytime someone like points something out about your body and makes an assumption about you, I am not here for it.
No, and it wasn't like a let's celebrate your curves and show them off. It was like a you're going to want to shop in that section. At least that's how it felt to me.
Girl, that's like the Pretty Woman movie when she is like, you're not going to find anything in here. Big mistake.
Big mistake. Huge. And maybe she didn't say it like that, but that is how my brain perceived it. That was the start of the trip.
I'm mad for you.
Then you go through the rest of the mall, and right now the trend is crop tops. Again, 6 foot. Does not work.
I'm very short. I'm also not into a crop top.
So all of these things are adding up and drawing attention to this stomach that I am just not enjoying right now. And it basically culminated in me crying into my Dippin' Dots at the food court.
Thank God you got Dippin' Dots,
yes.
the highlight. I love a good Dippin' Dots at the mall.
And do you know those moments when you're in public and you're like, I'm not even going to hold this cry back. And I was just letting like tears stream down my face as I'm shoveling my Dippin' Dots into my mouth. And I wish I had a good resolution to this story. My husband was so kind. He's always just praised me and told me I'm beautiful and just been nothing but supportive and like, hey, yeah, if you want new clothes, let's get new clothes. And it's not your fault. These styles are ridiculous. Like he's very encouraging. But I think I realized on that trip that I have a long way to go when it comes to accepting my body, when it comes to accepting that my body is good. And we even learned like thought swaps with Jennifer Taylor Wagner.
So powerful.
And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm just a fatty.
Oh,
that's
my goodness. No, you're not.
But
that is such a lie.
That's where my brain went. And I just wanted to be honest because I think so often when I see people preach body positivity, I'm like, yes, get it, girl. And then when it comes to me, I'm like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm just gross.
No, that is but that's such the lie that we hear in our minds, right? I was just looking up because there's a book that I went through last year with Jess Connolly called Breaking Free from Body Shame, very similar to Jennifer Taylor Wagner. And it was the first time that I've heard anybody talk about body image stuff related to our spiritual lives because those almost seem like they're segmented. But because God made our bodies and because this is a temple of the Holy Spirit, Jess Conley talks about how the way we think about our bodies is actually a spiritual thing that God cares about, and it actually affects how we look at God. And I think, I don't know about you, but the way that I split it before to feed my unhealth was I thought, well, God made my body, and then because of the fall and because of sin and because I haven't taken care of it, it's no longer good. Yeah. But that's not true. Like, God loves Bekah, he loves Joy, he loves you as you're listening, and that's the whole person. He loves the body that we're in. And one day we do get glorified bodies, but if we're looking at ourselves with any kind of self-hatred, didn't Beth Moore have a quote about that, I think, in one of our previous episodes? Yes, I shared it.
Like I said, I am a hypocrite. I will admit that.
I'm so grateful for your honesty in it, because we all struggle. I struggle still. But that actually is a spiritual issue, because God doesn't look at us with hatred. He looks at us with love. And if we can kindly treat our bodies, that doesn't mean that it's a completely different thing to mistreat our bodies. But to say, God made this, so it has to be good. I do that with other people. I'm like, God made that person, even if I don't like them right now. They have value. I don't do that to the body that he put me in. And God, he made our stomachs. He made our hands. He made our legs. And so often we think about them in an unjust way.
And I really was trying hard after the fact. I couldn't do it in the moment, but to remember, okay, this body helped me survive a pandemic and being at home for a year straight. This body
cares for your husband.
And cares for my husband. This body is well loved because people have fed me and tended to me. This body has gotten rest, even though the world might expect me to get off my butt and do something. This body has gotten rest when it's needed rest, and that's a good thing. So I'm trying.
So healthy.
But I'm a work in progress, and I just wanted to share that. If you're struggling and if you're like, ooh, good for you, but I can't relate, I want you to know that I'm still in the midst of this.
I'm so grateful that you would share that with us. And when you find a store that you find clothes you like at, please tell us. Because we don't want to shop where the ladies say, you're probably going to want to start over here.
Yes, which it's sad because those jeans did fit really well, so I ended up getting them. But I ordered online. Right. I ordered online so she couldn't get commission.
Girl, I love that. Okay, side story quickly. One time when I was dating my husband, we were at a cell phone store of all the places, and I was wearing a dress with Spanx because that's what we do. But the Spanx like to roll up, and they just like would ride up. So I didn't even notice that as I'm talking to this woman, I am pulling my Spanx down to try to put them where they belong. And the girl looks at me and just goes, oh, I know, thick girl probs, right?
What?
And my now husband was like, what? And I just was like, nothing. And then when we got to the car, I like turned red because no one had ever called me a thick girl before. I'm for sure a thick girl. I got curves, but it was just odd. And I think she was basically being like I'm a thick girl. I get it. Yeah. But it was just like she put a label on me that I didn't naturally accept. And then we got in the car and my then boyfriend goes, what's thick girl probs mean? Because she didn't even say the word problems. And I was like, if I talk about it, I'll cry.
Yeah.
So let's not label each other's bodies.
Yeah. Give yourself a label. There's nothing wrong with being a curvy girl being thick, but maybe don't throw it towards someone else who was not expecting to receive that today.
If I said to her, thick girl probs, right? She'd probably be like, girl, what? What?
Moving on to our thaerapy segment, I asked Joy today, I'm like, are you cool to share? Because I have something, but it's vulnerable, and my messy moment is vulnerable, so I don't want to, like, double up this week. So thankfully, you have something from therapy that you're going to share.
We want to share our hearts with you, but we don't want to feel like Bekah during an anxiety attack without a shirt.
Yeah.
That's too vulnerable. So here we are. So I went to therapy right after I sang the national anthem, which if you missed that a few episodes back, I shared the craziness leading up to it, and I wanted to tell her the victory that I had.
Because she's helped you prepare for this moment.
Well, she didn't even know I was doing it, but she's helped me address my fear issue for years. And I knew it was good that I did this, but I think therapy helped me go, here's what was actually happening in your brain. Yeah. So I deal with the clinical term is called an introject, but you can call it anything you want. It's really just that's what the voice in your head is that tells you things that are unhealthy. And you can have healthy ones that are like, you're amazing, you've got this, but I have a fear one. And these can come from experiences or people in your life, but it's a voice that starts to sound like your own. And when you're in a tough situation, tells you things that beat you down. And so for me, it says, you can't do this and you're a fraud and everybody's going to find out you can't do this. And it tells me all the bad things that can happen if I do it. Like I talked about in the episode, I thought I might like lose my house if I did a bad job.
It's a very far leap, but that's kind of what anxiety does sometimes.
It's a spiral.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I've learned now that when those thoughts come, that I don't have to accept them. I can just be like, actually, no, this could go great. This could be awesome. So the fact that I successfully battled my fear, I sang in front of thousands of people, even though I'm not an experienced singer, and I did it. Here's what I think you can apply to your life. She told me, she said, when you have a victory, you overcome something that scares you, or maybe you have a moment where you feel like God reveals himself to you. This happened in the Bible all the time. People would literally make a stone altar of remembrance. And so she said, I want you to do something that will make you remember this moment. She said, I don't care if you print out the logo from the NBA team and you put it by your bed, or if you have like a piece of memorabilia from there. And she said, every time you look at whatever your stone of remembrance is, I want you to remember God walked through this with me and I can do hard things. Like, look, I did that. I can take on whatever's coming. This moment reminds me that I'm capable and that God can walk through it with me. And so I just want to challenge you, if there is a moment you can point to when God was faithful, or a moment when you do something you don't think you can do, like create some kind of tchotchke reminder. 'Cause I'm going to try. I have not done it.
And I mean, you know that those feelings are going to surface back again, and to have something to look at. I think of in the Bible, the Israelites, God would provide, and then 5 days later, they'd be like, why do you never care for us, God? Like, they literally are so forgetful, but that's me. That's us. We do that. And so to have something that you can point to, so the next time the fear bubbles up and be like, no, I did this amazing thing. I'm going to shut down that voice because God was there and he showed up and good things happened.
Yeah, and that voice is a liar, and it doesn't always have to go that way. And I don't think I did the best job in the entire world. No one's signing a record deal with this messed up pipes, especially today. But I was like, but I did it. I followed through. And so I think that anytime you can celebrate something when we don't often do that, and life just beats you down and it's really hard, that you can have something physical to point to, it's almost a weapon for the next time you have to fight that battle.
I love that so much. On to our mess and bless of the week. I'll go first with my mess.
Yes.
This is a little disclaimer because, to be completely honest, sometimes Joy and I will debate like, ooh, should we talk about this? I don't know. There are some shows that my husband and I watch that maybe we shouldn't. They're maybe a little bit further advanced in rating than I would recommend to anyone. There's maybe more language and more content than I should be putting into my life. So this is not an endorsement of a show.
So this is a show, would you say it's more PG-13?
And maybe a little beyond. There's some content. Okay.
Tell me. What is it?
So it is on Netflix. It's called The Ultimatum.
I've seen advertisements for this. It's brand new.
Yes. So it's a dating show. And to be honest, we love a little trash TV. Like, let's try this out.
It's like a train wreck you don't want to look away from.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I cannot recommend this show. I shouldn't finish it. Can't finish it. Probably going to finish it. Shouldn't finish it. I'm fighting with myself. Okay, moving on.
We all do that sometimes.
The premise, though, is that these couples have been dating for a number of years, and one of them is ready to get married and the other isn't. And basically, they're giving an ultimatum. They all show up to this like beach house hotel. I don't really know what it is. And their goal is, hey, you're going to split up for 3 weeks, and you're going to find
split up.
Yeah, you're going to find someone else who was also either given an ultimatum or was giving the ultimatum.
The ultimatum is marry me or we're done.
Or we're done. Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to try to date that person, and their
my Lanta.
This is why it's my mess. The entire concept of it, as Nick and Vanessa Lachey are explaining the show and the concept, they're like, maybe for you, the reason that you don't know if it's time for marriage is because you want to see what else is out there.
Nick Lachey, please. We watched your life with Jessica. You do not have a lot to stand on.
As they're explaining this, I'm just going, no. Because they are just making a mockery of marriage completely, just making it seem like, oh, well, you got to see what's out there before you can commit.
And that will help you.
Commit
to someone.
Not at all.
So silly.
And a lot of these people are in their early 20s, which I don't know when reality show contestants got younger than I am, but it makes me feel very old.
You know what I found out is that our brains are not fully formed till we're like 25.
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. And so they're these young 20-somethings. A few of them have only been dating like a year and a half. It's not a crazy long time. And the guy's like, I want to be more financially stable. And she's like, no, marry me. I'm like, that actually sounds kind of reasonable. I don't know.
All of these things are messed up.
Oh, it is such a mess. So again, you should not watch it, but it was just such an interesting commentary on like how far things have gone. And I think at our core, we all know that reality shows aren't real. We all know that The Bachelor really isn't about finding love. But then you watch stuff and it does have a tendency to seep into your brain. And that's why I'm telling myself I need to stop watching this stuff, because pretty soon you're applying these unrealistic things to your relationships. And it's just a mess. The people that go on reality TV shows, they're there for a reason, and it's not because they have their life together.
It's because they want Instagram followers.
Yes.
But I need to know from you, do you think there's a healthy way to do an ultimatum? What do you think about a couple who enters any kind of situation and one is like, I want to be married, and the other one doesn't? I mean, I don't know what that was like for you and Joey. My husband and I almost had that.
We were ready to get married at 18, so that's...
Both of you?
Yeah.
Well, holy mackerel.
No, I think healthy relationships have those ongoing conversations and kind of expectations of, because I don't think it's unreasonable. It really stinks as women that we have a clock on when things need to be done by.
If you want a family, that's really, really hard.
So I don't think it's unrealistic to be like, hey, I would like to be a mother by the time I'm 33.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that happens. And if I need to know if that's going to be doable with you. I don't think that's unreasonable, but I also wouldn't call that an ultimatum. You know what I mean?
You're saying you can ask for what you want.
Yes. Express your needs. Tell the other person what your goal is for the future. And that was the other thing with this show is as these couples are explaining why they gave the ultimatum or why they're not ready to marry their partner, it just felt like there was so much miscommunication. Like the one guy, the woman gave the ultimatum, and then as they're talking, he's like, I don't even know how you feel about me. Like, you don't compliment me. You don't really tell me you love me. And I'm like, and she's the one who gave the ultimatum?
And he's probably thinking, I don't know if I want to be in a marriage where I'm lacking all of those things.
And so I am not a fan of ultimatums, but I am a fan of just open, honest, and constant communication.
That's really good. I remember that I'd probably been dating for like a year and a half, and my husband said to me one night that he wanted to get married. And I said, I just am like still not sure. And he said, I think you would know by now if it was right. And I got really troubled by that. I thought, is he going to break up with me? But he didn't. He gave me some time. But I also discovered that I was just afraid. I was afraid of marriage because it was really fun being single. And I'd gotten really comfortable with it. It's fun dating. I knew who I was, I felt like, in Jesus. And I'm like, I don't know what it's like to be a wife, but I know what it's like to be dating, and it's fun. So I was nervous about marriage, but I did end up taking that leap of faith. But there were so many conversations that led to it. And it is harsh to tell somebody it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of conversations probably lead to an ultimatum, but not a big fan.
And that's the case with you and Hunter, where you can explain your fears and kind of work through them together. And that's another reason why we're such big fans of therapy. And I'm not even talking about couples therapy. I'm talking about you're in a relationship. You know something is not right in your soul or how they're approaching something. Go see a therapist for you and just see what's going on in your head. It helps to talk through those things. There are so many times where I have been able to have a better conversation with Joey because I've worked it out in therapy first.
You know what you already think and feel about it. Which half the time we're in the middle of an argument and I'm like trying to figure it out.
Right.
What do I really think?
You can process those feelings with a third party who is a professional who you pay to be there, and then go home and be like, okay, I overreacted to this, and this is what I was feeling, and this is how what your actions made me feel, and that's not your fault, but et cetera.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. So don't watch that show.
Don't watch that show.
Well, I also have a Netflix show. Uh-oh. As my mess of the week, it's actually called The Home Edit, which is one of my absolute favorite shows. When I was sick with bronchitis, I binged the entire thing. I would like save an episode for the next day being like, what if I'm still homesick? I just want one more episode. And here's why it's my mess, though. It's Joanna and Clea, which, side note, Clea is fighting breast cancer right now. Been praying for her. That's like in the news right now. She's a pillar of strength. But in the midst of watching that show, what they do is they edit out all of your stuff, not all of it, but edit out some things, and then they categorize stuff, and then they create zones, and they put everything in a specific place. So it's just organizing. I love when chaos turns into beautiful things.
That's how I knew that I was getting older, is when I would find Instagram pictures of organization, and I'm like, oh, I want to zoom in on this. I want to like stay here for a second.
I wonder what it is about that. I think our lives are so insane that we're like, if my pantry was just more organized, maybe I would feel better as a person. We wouldn't. No. But it is nice to look at. Yeah. And here's the reason it's my mess, because they have all these beautiful products. I've actually bought a few of them before from the Container Store, which literally the first time I saw the Container Store, I'm like, that is so dumb.
Yes.
A store for containers.
But then you go in.
You get in there. I went in the basement and I was like,
a store for containers.
Do you want to have all my money? You can have it right now.
Yes.
So they get velvet hangers, everything beautiful, but it's so expensive. And the show can leave you thinking, I need to spend a lot of money if I'm going to have an organized home. And that's a straight up lie. So thank God I had bronchitis when I watched it, because when I had enough strength to get out of bed, I was like, I'm attacking all my closets. So I went to like our cabinet where my son has his snacks and we have our vitamins and everything was in disarray. Nothing made sense. The stuff we use the most was at the top. I mean, it just helps you think about things differently. And I literally had to think, I can't leave to go buy some of their products. They're even at Walmart now and they're a little cheaper, but still expensive. So I just started cutting up cardboard boxes that the food was done out of, and I started putting stuff in containers. And even though it doesn't look pretty, it totally worked. And I have a system now. And getting my kids' snacks together is so easy in the mornings because I attacked just this one cabinet. Yeah. And I'm so thrilled about it. So do not believe the lie. You do not need to buy this stuff from the Home Edit. You don't even need to buy stuff. Dollar Tree has stuff that I've gotten before. There's cheap ways to do it, but you don't need it. Cut up that Cheerios box, girl, and you got it.
Because the organization is going to be there's nothing... The organization with cardboard boxes is still more aesthetically pleasing than the chaos,
than
right?
Everything just thrown in there.
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
I recently organized my makeup drawer, and it's been weeks now, and I just got stuff from this place called Bargain Hunt, which is a really cheap store.
I've wanted to try that place.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's like a bunch of Amazon returns. It's a mess. Joey loves it. But ever since I organized it, every time my husband's in the bathroom at the same time as I am, I open up the makeup drawer. I'm like, look at my makeup. Isn't it pretty?
I feel calm just looking at it.
Yes, it makes me feel so good every morning.
Good. What is your bless of the week?
My bless is Etsy. And as I tell this story, you're going to be like, this is your bless, but just hang in there with me. So Etsy is once again raising their fees for sellers on their site. So you might have noticed, maybe you went to Etsy to purchase something and it wasn't available. A lot of Etsy sellers are on strike this week. Some of them
I have no idea. Yeah. I love Etsy.
Yes.
I get most of my Christmas gifts from them.
Some of them just did Monday, Tuesday. Several of them are doing the full week. And basically what it came down to is Etsy is getting ready to do another transaction fee hike. So currently it's 5%. They're going to take it up to 6.5%.
I didn't even think about how the sellers have to pay that.
And the reason that this is an issue is because Etsy's sales have been at an all-time high. They're very healthy because the pandemic, everyone started selling, and the more people are selling, the more money they're making. So it's not like there's any cost that they need to cover. We know that inflation is going on. We realize that there are things that have had to go up recently. This is not one of them. On top of that, the sellers are like, Etsy basically really deeply encourages you to do free shipping. And so by the time I factor shipping costs into my product, it's not an attractive price. And these people, I mean, they're not these giant corporations with machines just spitting out personalized things. They're people
competing with Amazon.
Yeah, it's people that want to make a little money, or maybe it's their main income, and they work for a long time on these really beautiful things because it's their craft. Man. And so that's why Etsy sellers are my bless, because I think of things that, and I don't want to call this unjust because I feel like that maybe makes light of true injustices in the world, but in a way it is. And I love that they had the courage to band together and say, this is not okay, and we're going to forego sales. I'm not saying you should protest everything, but this one feels like the right response to what was happening to them.
I wonder if there's any way we can support them.
So different sellers, they have their info in their Etsy site. And so you can find them on Instagram and message them and do it kind of
outside of Etsy.
Exactly. So if there is something you want this week, because I mean, we still have a couple days of this when the episode comes out. Maybe you're listening later and this is far past, and that's fine. If there's something that you're needing or wanting, just see if you can find the seller offline. I've been able to do that before, just when I wanted to message someone on Instagram or tag them on Instagram and support them that way. Or maybe even write to Etsy. I don't really know what that process looks like, but
Etsy, we're mad.
I'm sure that, they get enough complaints from buyers and sellers. Eventually, they have to pay attention to that and be like, maybe this was greedy. Maybe we should calm it down.
The climber earrings that I bought Bekah for Christmas that look great on her. I got those on Etsy. And I think I started thinking about it differently when I used to get all of my Christmas gifts from Amazon. And then I got together just before Christmas this year with one of my best girlfriends. Her name is Emily. And she's about to have her second child. And she was able to leave her job because of her Etsy business. It's how she stays at home with her son. And she's like a graphic designer and she makes the coolest stuff. I ended up buying from her an ornament where she like hand draws someone's home on it. So my brother got a new house and she hand draws it, but then she has a laser cutter. So it laser cut his house into this wooden ornament. Emily Can letter, if you want to look her up on Etsy. But, and I just thought I'm supporting a woman, a mom.
Yes.
I'm supporting someone.
Yes.
This is how she stays home with her children. And I would rather do that than like
Jeffrey
add more
Bezos.
money to Jeff Bezos when I'm grateful for the free shipping from them, but it doesn't feel like an individual person. Yeah. And I'm still going to buy from Amazon.
Oh, for sure. Because when you need diapers, I don't know what you buy on Amazon. When you need dog bones in the middle of the night, I'm not going to turn to Etsy. But when you need something that's a sweet and gift that means something to someone, and like you said, a lot of sellers, that is their income that allows them to have freedom to live the life that they need to for their families.
Exactly. Etsy all the way.
Yes.
For my, the final thing on the podcast, my bless of the week, I am not a fan of golf. I did not watch the Masters, but I do have to say that it's pretty incredible that like a very young winner for the Masters this year. You're into golf? You're a golfer.
No. I came from a golf family. I like to joke that I'm the black sheep of the family because I gave it up. I was on the golf team in high school. Like, I wasn't half bad at it, but I hated it, and I still hate it to this day. But my family is obsessed. My parents retired to a golf course. They live off the 16th fairway, I think, or something like that. Yeah, literally the golf course is in their backyard. Everything's golf. I grew up watching the Masters, not because I wanted to, but because it was the only thing on TV when Dad fell asleep to golf. Anyway, I'm not paying attention now, so I would love to hear about it from you.
Scotty Scheffler, I think he's 25. He won this year.
That's
and he's
very
kind of
young.
like a newcomer, but he is very strong in his faith. And so that's what actually made me interested. I saw a clip on Instagram this morning of him being interviewed talking about how golf is not the most important thing about him. His identity is actually in Christ. This is just something that he loves to do. And this was a quote from him. He said, "People a lot of times think, well, if you become a Christian, God's going to make everything easy for you." And that's not the case. But having the God of the universe, the creator on your side, it just makes things a lot easier to deal with. The principles of the Bible are something that when you use them, you see God's goodness manifested in your life. And that doesn't always mean that, like you've talked about, that life turns out the way that we want, but it means that we have God's peace through the difficulty. And so the fact that all eyes are on this young winner to the Masters, apparently he's friends with like Bubba. I can't remember what that dude's last name is.
Watson.
I want to say Shrimp Company. It's
Bubba
not
Watson.
Right. He met Bubba Watson at like a Bible study.
I told you I knew too much about golf.
She really does. And so they're friends who share faith, and I think that's really powerful.
That's amazing. I just wish that he didn't play golf because then maybe I would follow his career. But I cannot endorse that. Thanks so much for listening. If you got something out of this episode, would you consider sharing it with a friend and leaving us a review? If you have anything you'd like to share with us, you can email holymess@wayfm.com. And thank you so much for being a part of our messy family.